Thank you, Mike. Hello everyone. Good afternoon, good morning, and good evening from whichever part of the world you're joining us. I welcome you all and thank you so much for giving us the time, for trusting us, and helping us to organize this webinar. So, let's start with a brief introduction about Edunate. So Edunate is a group of graduate from your dream university who is going to help you reaching your dream university. So we are a group of highly motivated and like-minded people who are here to help you out with your university application. And the reason to actually organize this webinar because we have formally trying to launch ourselves in the India market because we believe that everybody has and must have the right to access to equal opportunity in terms of great education and of course to apply to their dream university and get through it. So we have today with us Michael, who is the CEO, and Matt, who is the COO of Edunate, and we have Fiorella, who is from University of Cambridge, and then we have other people who you can't see on the screen, but they all are working with us from these great universities with intelligent minds and going to help you out with your university. And now I'm gonna hand over to Michael so that he can explain you about our webinar and what does it include. So yes, let's just get started.
Thank you for your kind words, Anuba. Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for joining. As stated by Anuba, my name is Michael, and together with Matt, I'm a co-founder of Edunate, which is a Cambridge-based academic advisory firm that helps prospective students like yourself to choose, apply to get in, and fund the best universities in the world. If I was to summarize our company in one word, I would say first-hand knowledge. As a firm, we believe in first-hand knowledge, and we're exclusively composed of people who themselves applied, themselves went through the interview process, themselves went through the application process, and themselves finished the best universities in the world. Our motto is simple. We've done it once. Let us show you how to do it again. I wouldn't like to speak more about our company because after the presentation, you will receive a pamphlet and short information about facts and details about Edunate. So the last thing I would like to do is to reintroduce the speakers. As I say, Matt, you already know Anuba, so as I said, Matt, co-founder of Edunate, cum laude graduate from the Erasmus University of Rotterdam, one of the best economic universities in the world. Fiorella Gallardo-Sarti, our expert from personal statements and law graduate from the University of Cambridge. And without further ado, let's start. Today we're going to speak about the documents that will make your application perfect and that you will have to focus on in your application, regardless when you're applying. Personal statement, CV, letter of recommendations are the things that unify all the applications. And the first document we will focus on, in my opinion, the most important, will be personal statement. Before I will give you the tips, before we will focus on what to do, what not to do, how to do it, and how to stand out, I would like to briefly speak about what is a personal statement and why it is so important. Because I think we hear a lot about it on social media and internet, but not many people explain it. So let me give you my take on it. It is, of course, a fundamental part of your application, and it's usually a short document between 250 and 1,000 words where you explain your motivations to study at a given university and reasons why the university should accept you. But what makes it so important is that it's one of the only things in your application that you have a total control over. When you think about your application, you cannot control your background. You cannot control where you come from. You cannot control your grades. You can have a bad day on the exam, so you cannot control that. But personal statement is something you can fully control from the beginning till the end. That's why it's a document where you have to focus on, and document that is extremely important. In Edunate, we have this motto that maximize on controllables. Hence, we'll start from personal statement, and I will jump straight into the tips. Let's speak firstly about what to do. We divided into 4 sections, as you see, and we'll split it with Fiorella. And the number one tip I have for all of you about writing the personal statement and preparing personal statement is to plan before the start. I would say that writing is the last process, the last element, the last piece of the puzzle in your personal statement journey. Personal statement is not you complimenting yourself or writing nice things about yourself. It is that to an extent, but that has to come in a logically flowing and coherent form. Whether you have a classic structure of introduction, main body, and conclusion, or you will form your personal statement around the quote, you have to plan it first. The unplanned personal statement, just a stream of consciousness, are clearly visible, and it's very easy to recognize them and distinguish them from a good structured personal statement. I'll give you one tip on how to plan it the best. Very, very simple, but in my opinion, very, very important. Start from writing everything you would like to include, all the achievements, all the things you've done. After that, prioritize. You will not have space for everything. Priorities, what is the most important thing you want to convey. Then structure it around something, and then you start writing. So first tip, plan before you start. Very important. Tip number 2 I would give you is to be confident about your achievements. As much as it's not nice to brag and you don't want to sound cocky, you don't want to be cocky, personal statement is one of the, except LinkedIn post, is one of the only places in your life where you can actually brag about yourself, and actually it's a place for you to shine. So don't downplay yourself. Don't try to be humble, because this is not what the document is all about. Of course, again, don't be cocky, but it's your place to shine, and be confident about your achievements. Show off, say about the things you've done, and that confidence should translate in your writing, right? You're applying to the top universities in the world. If you don't have the confidence, they will not think that this is a suitable place for you. So be confident, show off, and be proud of yourself. Last advice, in my opinion, the most important out of those 3, is show, don't tell. And this is maybe the most important advice about personal statement. What I mean by this is everybody in the world can claim something. I can claim I'm hardworking. Anuba can claim she's passionate. Matt can claim he's great at time management. All of us can claim something, but mainly it means absolutely nothing. Everybody can say they are something. But what makes the difference is who can support that. In my opinion, and my advice is, never tell you something, but show it. Instead of saying I'm hardworking, say, or passionate, say every day after school I was organizing seminar from biology. That tells that you're hardworking and passionate way more than you saying it. Give them an example of what you've done. Give them an example of your hard work. Give them an example of your passion. Show them rather than tell them. Everybody can say, not everybody can show. Giving voice to Fiorella Gallardo.
Hello, everyone. I'm just going to carry on from the tips that Michael has already said to you. I guess that these tips that I'm going to tell you with how to do it deals more when once you already have a clear plan and now you're trying to implement this into the actual written text. So the first advice that I would give is to make sure that you're always using simple language. Many students make the mistake of using overly technical or overly flowery, as we call it, language, which tries to almost show to the reader that they're almost more intelligent or they've read all the technicalities of the subject, but in reality it ends up with a text that's more convoluted, more complex than it has to be. There's a beauty in being able to show a reader and impress them with using very simple language that a 12-year-old should be able to read. This is not the moment to show off your English skills. It's the moment to show that you know what you want to study here, you know what you're about, you're confident, and you're ready to impress them without trying to confuse them. Number 2, which kind of goes down the same avenue, is to be succinct. So when personal statements are not succinct, by this meaning like you are not clear as to what points you're trying to say and you're not saying them in a very sharp manner, it shows almost a stream of consciousness. This meant that you went through the process of thinking of everything that you wanted to include, but you did not take that further. This in a way shows that you're not really prepared. It shows that you only did one draft and you left it as that. You were happy with your work. You did not go back, you did not proofread, you did not streamline it to make sure that you're only highlighting the most important things that you want that reader to know, and that you really did not take the task seriously. Your personal statement should always try to say a story, which is why the third point is to remember about structure. Personally, the story that I try to say with all the personal statements that I help with is that it should start with the subject. So why do you want to study this subject? Carrying on down the line, telling the reader why you're suitable academically. So talking about your passions, how prepared you are, how much you know about that specific university, and then ending on a personal note, which shows that not only are you academically prepared and academically apt, but that you also as an individual with your personality also suit in this university.
After we spoke about what to do, how to do it, it's time for what not to do. So 3 tips I have for you is following. The first one is avoid cliches, and I'm not speaking here only about obvious things like don't say things like since I was 5 years old I wanted to go to Amsterdam University. That's obvious. That just sounds bad. But cliches are also ideas. I'll give you an example. I always wanted to study physics. I wanted to study physics after I read The Brief History of Time by Stephen Hawking. Okay, it makes sense, but it's banal, cliche. I would even say primitive to say something like this. Every single person in the world can say it. Avoid those things. Avoid cliche sentences. Avoid cliche ideas. Uh, avoid saying things that are just simple and not you. That would be my number one tip, what to avoid. Second thing is don't speak about your weaknesses too much. This sounds quite obvious, but believe me, many students want to have a balanced personal statement, and because of that, they mention some things they don't know that they are not good at. But again, it's very important to remember that what is personal statement? Personal statement is not a place for that. There's many documents that are way more balanced. There's many documents that want both sides. Maybe academic essays are the documents where positives and negatives, advantages, disadvantages. But personal statement is not about that. It's about shining. So don't focus on your weaknesses. I would say avoid it. Avoid speaking about it. It's not a place for that. Maybe the interview preparation, when you're preparing for interview, when you're speaking to them, they ask you, you can answer it. But in personal statement, don't speak about it, because a lot of people try to be balanced, but they just actually say negative things about themselves. Avoid that. Lastly, sounds obvious, but it's not obvious at all. Don't plagiarize. And of course, don't plagiarize because A, it's illegal. B, they might catch you and you might be disqualified straight away. But also don't plagiarize because it kills the most important thing about your personal statement, the fact that it's yours. When you plagiarize, when you copy from somebody else, you're naturally it stops it's no longer yours, and takes away the most important aspect, which is the fact that it should be yours. There's a lot of people who post their personal statements, so it's easy to take one sentence from here, the other sentence from there, and sort of glue it together and make a personal statement. Of course you can look at other people's things, but one thing you have that nobody can take away is you and your style and your own things. So focus on that and do not plagiarize, do not copy. Try to write your own everything.
Now, lastly, once you're equipped with having an idea of what to do, how to do, and what not to do, we have also, after looking at so many thousands of personal statements, we have followed some patterns in terms of what makes a personal statement actually stand out and be successful in the top universities. So, our number one tip is to start and end powerfully. Always remember that this is how the human brain works. Even when we are talking about just specific words, you're more likely to remember the start of the word and the end of it. The middle does not really matter that much. And this applies as well to the text itself. So remember, at the start of your personal statement, this is the first impression that the reader and the admissions team will have of you. This is gonna raise some eyebrows as to whether this is a candidate that might be interesting for the university, or whether this is a personal statement that they're just gonna scan through because it did not catch their attention. And now, once they have taken the time to read through your story, you have to end this powerfully, because that is the last thing they're gonna remember. Remember, they're not gonna just sit down one day and read your specific personal statement and that's it, make the decision about you there and then. They're probably gonna be reading hundreds and hundreds of personal statements in the same day. And in order to make sure that you are remembered, not only do you need to give a good impression at the start, but leave a good taste in their mind after they have finished reading yours. You want your personal statement to be the one that they kind of think back to, the one that they remember the most, and they take out of the pile because they remember that it was distinctive, it was yours, and there's a reason why they just can't forget it. Number two is to tailor it to each school application. Now, this is not just for personal statements. It also is an advice for anything in life, job applications, any type of internship, anywhere where you have to apply, you have to make sure that you're tailoring it to that specific institution. Each university, especially universities, each has their own personality, their own culture, their own history, the own reasons why they want to be remembered, the own things that they're trying to do to the public right now to allure them and almost trying to get their attention. And you need to make sure that not only are you on top of this, that you're aware of the place that you're applying to, but that you fit in there. So for example, if you're applying to a place such as Cambridge and Oxford, it is helpful to mention things such as the collegiate system, which is not something that not many universities do, and those universities pride themselves in this system. So make sure that you know the culture of the place that you're going to, and not only being able to let them know that you know this, but showing rather than telling them that you fit in there, your personality fits in there. For example, the university that you're applying to, does it have any sports that it's famous for? Do you have any experience with that sport? Any little thing that shows that you are the ideal candidate that not only fits in academically but fits in terms of personality is a plus. And lastly, Michael kind of mentioned it a little bit, but we think it's so important that we must mention it again in order to close this section, is to make sure that you make it yours. Now, we're not trying to say that you should not get help from anyone else, not get help from friends, not get help from teachers, or even ChatGPT. They're all helpful in order to gather all the cards that you have almost, in order to make it yours towards the end. So make sure that you're exposing yourself to different types of ideas, different types of styles, and then look at everything that you have and make sure that you're tailoring it not just to them, but to you. Your personal statement is almost an extension of your personality. It is telling them and telling them, this is who I am, and I know that I fit in with you. And this is exactly what you should do. And in order to do this, remember, you have to plan before you start, plan what you want to say, what you think you bring to the table, and why this is married exactly to the type of institution that they pride themselves to be.
Lastly, as a final tip, we have the tip of, if you could move the slide, Matt, get help from people who already did it. Seek advice from those who are successful, because there's a lot of personal statements floating around, but I would say good 90% of them are from people who never got in. So if you're looking for a good help, get help from those who have done it. Finishing this section, I'm giving voice to Matt, and he's taking over with the CV tips.
Yes, exactly. In the third part of this presentation, we'll talk about CVs and how to write them to include as many useful information about yourself as possible without giving off a feeling of sounding somewhat arrogant or cocky. So you may already know that CVs, same as personal statements, are very often used and required when applying for universities, especially for postgraduate studies. But also naturally, like, these tips just simply apply to CVs in general that can also be used for job applications. So even if you don't need them right now for a current application, you will definitely also need them in the future. So in the next slide, we'll give you 5 tips. 5 tips on how to make your CV simply as good as possible. And the first tip strongly relates to what Fiorella was talking about before about personal statements. So it is about tailoring your CV to the job you are applying for. The same thing as was said before, there's nothing worse than a generic CV which could be written by virtually anybody. Make sure to properly research each position you are applying for, and emphasize parts of your CV which can be useful for this application. So for example, if you're applying for an internship in communication, make sure to write more about previous positions in which you had to show off leadership qualities. Because at the end of the day, your recruiter will care the most about those qualities. Of course, they also care about other things that you did in the past, so it doesn't mean that the only thing you should say on your CV is about this previous position, but make sure to put the most emphasis on this and also devote the biggest part of your CV to this, and it can very often go with a cost of other positions that you had. So for example, just write one sentence about other positions, and about this one write maybe 2 or 3, because this one is definitely the most important for your current application. The second tip is to use quantifiable measures of success to show off your skills. And that can be pretty much anything that is a number, to be honest, that you can refer to as a number. So, for example, increasing efficiency from 70 to 80%, or growing your team from 5 to 15 people, or completely setting up a team from scratch and now maybe it has 10 people. At the end of the day, you are applying for a position to bring results, and results are measured in numbers, and they're also easiest to express in numbers. In most cases, saying one sentence about actual numbers behind your achievements is more useful and tells more to the recruiter than if you were to write a whole paragraph stating what you did. So whenever it is possible to convert your achievements into numbers, make sure to state those, because recruiters always like that. The third tip, we have for you guys is to follow a problem solution approach. And that can be applied to pretty much every previous job that you did. And this can be done in the description. So whenever you state that you are working somewhere for some time, and then after this you have like one or two sentences in which you describe the position you were in. Uh, in this section of your CV, this is the time where you can show what you were hired for, what was the beginning condition, and how you left it. Because again, you were definitely hired, or you joined some sort of society or something to do something, right? To fix something or to start something from scratch. And this is the time in which you can say the beginning condition and the condition at which you left the place. And this will also show your recruiters that you're a solution-driven person. And this I can tell you now, that is always good, and this is always something that recruiters look for. The last two tips we have. So the fourth tip right now is to write a short description about every main activity that you did in the past. And it may seem like a fairly basic tip, and I also thought it was a pretty basic tip until a couple of years ago I started seeing more and more of those CVs, and I saw literally hundreds of CVs in which somebody stated that they used to work as an analyst for a couple of months. And yeah, maybe you also haven't really seen it yet, but I can promise you that in the future, half of your friends will either be analysts or at some point in the past were analysts, and this literally tells absolutely nothing about what you actually did. So whenever you're saying that you're an analyst, because maybe you were, then also don't forget to actually say something about the actual position that you were doing. So what was your purpose? What were your responsibilities? What were the results that you brought? Because simply stating the name of the position in most cases is definitely not enough, and doesn't really tell anything, to be honest, about what you actually did. And the last tip is to keep it short and sweet. There's this golden rule that you have around 5 seconds to grab your recruiter's attention. I'm not really too sure if I don't fully agree with this, because I don't think it's always 5 seconds, but I can tell you for sure that it's definitely a very, very short time. So you have 5, 7, whatever, 8 seconds to grab your recruiter's attention and to make sure that they actually look at your CV and go through the whole thing, instead of throwing it out on, or putting it on some on the pile of CVs of people that won't get in. So make sure to use this time well, and make sure that your CV looks presentable enough such that the recruiter actually looks at it, instead of simply moving on to the other candidates. So these were the 5 tips we had for you guys to improve on your current CVs, and now we will move on to the section about letters of recommendation.
So thanks, Matt. Okay, so this is the part number 4, and it's regarding the letters of recommendation. And I can't emphasize less like how important letter of recommendation is for you for this university application, and the role they play in the entire admission process. So basically, what is a good letter of recommendation when we talk about, especially the university admission? So think of it like a university application. Think about your university application like a book, and each page of that book present achievement, your experience, your story. So I would say a good LOR is like the connotation that contextualizes those pages. It reveals your character, your dedication, your qualities. So it's basically a window into what you have done so far, and not only about your academics but also about your personal qualities, which is written by someone who has observed you and who has always believed in your capabilities. So I would say like it's kind of a testimonial which illuminates your journey, and it is important to have a good LOR to support your university application. So let's say like I'll just say like it's a comparative tool. We have two applicant A and B. If you think about LOR of applicant A has many information about his or her qualities, about what they have done in their personal and professional life, and it has lots of depth, and it's like a story which the LOR recommender is telling to the admission team. And then there's applicant B whose LOR just lacks the depth, is quite vague. So, being in the admission committee, of course, they will take applicant A. So you now understand that how important the LOR is. Can we please have the next slide? Okay, so now the next part of LOR is that how to choose your recommenders. I would say choose them wisely. It's very, very important. So the first tip is that select those who truly know you. Basically, a recommender is the person who can attest to your strengths and your growth, your character, and will create a compelling portrait about you as a person, as a candidate for this particular course you're planning to apply for. Second is that align with the application's requirement. What does it mean that whether it is academic prowess, your leadership, or community engagement, ensure that your insight aligns well with what the institution or the university values. For example, if you're applying for Oxford, then just go through the website, like what are the values they prefer in a candidate, and just be sure that you let your recommender know about it whenever you're having a conversation about the letter of recommendation with them. The next step is about the mix of perspective for a comprehensive view. What I mean by this is that if you are trying to take recommendations from three recommenders, make sure that two of them is from your professors and one can be from your employer if you're a working professional, because it not only shows that how good you are academically, but also present a comprehensive image of your capabilities, of your potential, and how good you can be by being a student of that particular course. So it should be a blend of your academic, your extra co-curricular, and your personal insight, which basically enriches your profile. Lastly in this is that ask early and provide necessary information, which I'll talk about in the next slide. So we have a next slide, which talks about requesting a letter of recommendation. As I stated earlier, that make sure that you ask early, because the earlier you ask, the better you are, because it will give your recommender to think about what and how thoughtful and impactful your LOR can be, and to emphasize more on your strengths and potential. It will also provide a room for you and your recommenders to talk about your aspiration, your goal, and will let them know like why you are aspiring for this particular course. So what is your dream, what is your aspiration related to this particular course. So those kind of conversations are so important for your recommender to understand you and to write you an impactful and thoughtful letter of recommendation. Secondly, provide them necessary information. Provide them your CV, provide them your transcripts, provide them, when I was applying for MLF, that is MSc in Law and Finance at Oxford, there was this writing sample which you have to submit with your application. So make sure you also give a copy of that writing sample to your recommender, because it will help them to understand what is the course all about and your aspiration related to that particular course. So provide them with whatever necessary information and documents you think will be helpful for them to write you again an impactful LOR. So offer materials, it includes the same tip as I said in the provide the necessary information. Now we have the last tip, very, very important. We should be grateful about people helping us and assisting us in reaching our goals and dream. And this fourth tip is all about that. So make sure that you send them a regular reminder before the deadline so that everything happens on time and you're not late, or if because the professor is so busy, they are busy with other things, they're also writing recommendation for other students. So make sure that you are on time and you're not missing on anything which is required and most important for your application. And once it is done, make sure that you also say thank you, like present the gratitude for helping you out in writing an LOR. So make sure it should be after post your application as well. So I would say that LOR is basically a collaboration. It's a kind of a teamwork. Your efforts and the words of your recommenders, which blend to create a powerful testament to your abilities. And again, I will say that I can't emphasize less on how important this part is for your entire university application, because it's like an evidence to your testimony, to your reason to apply for this particular course. So make sure that you choose your recommender wisely, ask them on time, and be grateful for all their help. Uh, Now we have the next slide.
Yes.
So yes, we have these smiling faces, and I will let Michael to let you know more about these people who have been successful with us. So Michael, the floor is all yours now.
Yes, thank you, Anuba. Yeah, guys, I just wanted to show you a few people who applied with us lately, last year. University of Glasgow, Erasmus University of Rotterdam, and Anako Paris, which is an art school. These are the people that we help with their documents, with their personal statement, with the whole application journey. And I think they are the best example of our work rather than words. their success is the evidence of our quality. Also, we have here the first client of Edunate ever, which is Fiorella Gallardo Sarti, who actually was the idea for Edunate. Before we even registered the company, it was her that we helped with her application, and I think partially thanks to us, because it's mainly her ability that she got into Cambridge University Law and graduated from Cambridge University Law. So this was just a little example at the end. And now we would like to open a 15 minutes Q&A session. You can put on the microphone and ask us a question. You can send it to the chat if you have any questions to ask. Of course, mainly about the topic of personal statement, CV, and letter of recommendation. But to be honest, you guys can ask about literally anything related to studying abroad, our journeys, our stories that you want. If you want to ask it to a specific person, you can also put the name of the person you want to ask. If not, we will choose the person. The floor is yours. If you have any questions, feel free to ask.
So as Michael mentioned, it can be about anything. Doesn't have to be specifically related to the presentation. So feel free. Maybe this is your chance to get more insight. And if you have any question regarding a particular university, do feel free and ask us right away. And if you are shy or not wanna switch on your audios, you can just message us in the chat box.
Yeah, guys, it's time for you. Like, we understand that some people prefer to write it individually and maybe not in front of everyone. In that case, you can always send us an email, but this time is yours. So we'll wait a few more minutes. If there will be any questions, we'll answer them. If not, we'll proceed to another part.
Hi, I have a question.
Sure.
To when usually we should send all of our documents to the university?
Yes. So everything depends on the deadline of the application. Each university has its own deadline. Let's say if you were applying to Oxford and Cambridge, that would be October this year, so in a few months. If you're applying to most of universities in Europe, it will be between January and March, April. Potentially, as we know each other, we know each other well from our webinars. You might be interested in China. For China, it's also going to you have time till around April, May. So the university will have its deadlines. On the university page, you will see the information by when you have to send, by when and what documents you have to send, and this is individual deadline. Unless you're applying maybe for UCAS, which is to England. Some countries have big systems that tell you when to apply, but mainly it's up to each university.
Yeah, I can also quickly add that if you want to apply to the UK, usually these deadlines are a lot earlier than pretty much any other country. So yeah, just that UK is earlier, and then all other countries is usually around April or May.
Yes, I think there's a question to Anuba.
Yeah, okay. Thank you, Isha, for the question. So I'll just read it out so that everybody can hear that. Thank you for the interesting insights, everyone. Just wanted to know from Anupa, how did you go on about writing your LORs and essay for admission at University of Oxford? So, Isha, for the LORs, I know, I do understand that in India, your professor might be asking you to send them the LOR so that they can forward it. Make sure that I would say that for me, I was lucky enough that my professor knew me for a longer time, and they did not ask me specifically to write the LOI and submit that to them. So what they did was that we basically organized 2-3 meetings, and they wanted me to. They just asked me why are you interested in this course, and they provided me a format. It's one way. The other way, if they're asking you for the LORs, I would say prepare a structure. Okay, do not write it entirely. Do not, you don't have to write a complete LOR from your side, because you shouldn't sound similar what you are writing in your personal statement, because admission committee is quite intelligent enough to guess that you have written it. You are the one who are writing the LOR or the personal statement. So make sure you provide particular points to them which you want your recommenders to highlight in your LORs, and then kindly request them to write the LORs for you, because that is a good approach of doing that, rather than writing the entire LOR. And I do understand that the kind of problem you might be facing, because I have people in the same place, and this is the advice I provide them. Or maybe like if they're asking you to write the complete LOR, make sure you ask your friend to write it for you, so that the language is quite different in both the case, your personal statement and your LORs. Now the second is about the essay for admission at University of Oxford. I don't know which course particularly you are asking about. Is it the essay, you mean the personal statement, or you mean the writing sample? Isha,
Statement of purpose. SOP is the statement of purpose, I believe.
She has written an essay. No, I'm still answering Isha's question. So she said essay for admission at University of Oxford. Do you mean the person? Okay, writing sample for, okay, financial economics. Okay. So I think it's the same for law and finance. In my case, there was this topic which I had to select. Make sure that you follow the references and footnotes very, very carefully, and you follow the Oxford one, because I follow the Oxford one while writing my essay. And in the beginning, you can provide an abstract about like a summary of the entire essay, and then just provide the sample after that summary. Also follow the international standards when it comes to references and footnotes, because they are very, very particular about how you write. And you can choose any of the topic which you like and which you specialize in, so do not worry a lot about it. What they usually see is that how good you are in terms of expression of the language, and how good can you have the understanding of a particular topic. So choose where you feel most comfortable. And if you have any follow-up question, you can ask. And if you are happy and satisfied, you can just let me know, and then we'll move to the next question by Sophia. Okay, you're welcome. So we have next question by Sophia. If I'm applying to Oxford MSc Financial Economics, how do I frame the SOP if I have worked in business but not in finance and economics? Okay, so Sophia, I think, guys, I can take this question if that's okay.
Yeah, sure.
Perfect. Okay, so I will say, Sophia, just try to, I would say, just try to figure out something from your business. From your, if you have worked in business, there might be some sector which will be common from finance and economics. Try to identify those sectors, and you can just start that how your interest had transformed from business to finance economics. That could be a good start. Like, what was that point where you just wanted to shift your entire your entire career from the business perspective to finance, and what is that trigger point, I would say. So your story can go like this, and then you can try to link your interest with whatever you have done. Maybe you have done something in your working as a working professional, something related to finance economics. Maybe you have worked on a particular concept related to finance, maybe something, for example, investment, or you have advised somebody who's in is an investment, or maybe like a business proposal you have designed. So those are the good enough evidence to support why you want to shift your focus from business to financial economics. So it should actually go like a story. First you can start with something from your, so you know what, there has to be a component of past, present, and future. What I mean by past is like what you have done so far, and then what happened in the past, and that was a trigger point that made you to shift your focus, and what you're doing in the present, which you think will be helpful for you to enroll for this particular course. And in the future, I mean, like, how this course will help you to reach where you want to go. So if you can include all those three components, I would say you will be good to go. And don't worry a lot about, because they are very welcoming to the people from all the sectors, and they want people actually from different backgrounds and experiences, so that the more diverse the more diverse the class is, the more enriching the debate, and the entire cohort is, and they have those different ideas. to discuss in the class. So do not worry a lot about you haven't done anything specific in finance. Just try to point out or maybe figure out something which is common between the two. And I'm sure there are many sectors which are there are many overlapping sectors between the two subjects. So yeah, I think that will be good enough for you.
I'll add a few things. I'll add a few things on top of that. Yeah, I think what Anuba said is of course correct, and that's a good idea. What I would add on top of this is also try to think of what you, because those are overlapping areas, like business and finance are overlapping. For instance, one common thing is money, right? That joins those two sectors. Try to maybe write down the skills that you learned in business that are applicable in finance. Try to show how those things are connected and how the skills you got in one area will be transferable to another, or maybe you have certain skills that will be even more useful than a typical person from finance. One of the services that we have is so-called suitability advice. We try to get your profile and make you suitable to each job, to each application. And I think the most important is to get out the things that will be useful for them, that will be suitable for them, that are in your experience, that will be worth their time, and try to get those things and show them how your experience from business will be suitable in finance. Also, as Anuba said, don't be worried about things not matching perfectly, because it's not for us to judge what matches, it's for the employer to judge. If he doesn't like your experience, he will, or if he doesn't like, if the people admission team doesn't like it, let them decide it. Don't decide on your own, because maybe, exactly as Onuba said, they want diverse background. Some of the people they might want exactly coming from finance, but then everything is about the team, and sometimes it might be worth for them to have somebody in the team that doesn't have a classic background in that domain. I think Fiorella, to give an example, Fiorella has background in law, but she's moving to international relations, where law is a great component. And even though she's not exactly from international relations, she's extremely suitable, even though she's not tailor made. So yeah, I would say get out the best points you have from your background, and try to utilize them. Show how you can utilize them in the new environment of financial economics.
Also, adding to that, I just want to mention to motivate you further. So I know somebody who was a corporate lawyer and he was in MFE. So you don't have to worry. Now you can say that law and like financial economics are boring. He used something in his experience from the corporate law and might have put it in the SOP. So I do know someone personally. So that is your head start and a green signal. So do not afraid about anything and just start writing your SOP. I hope that answers your question, Sophia.
Yes, thank you.
You're welcome. I would.
I can take this one.
Perfect.
In general, the idea is that as much as your grades are extremely important, and they are a huge component of application, we think as a company that students sometimes put too much emphasis on them. I hear those 5%, 3%, 10%. Sometimes it all really doesn't matter, because I know people who had way worse grades than others and still got to the top universities. So of course, first of all, I wouldn't say you can compensate, because nothing is ever equal that you can ideally compensate. But of course, if you get high GRE score, it's definitely going to make your application better. So I would rather say anything that can make your application better is a good idea. In terms of this compensating, it's very hard to calculate how the university will sort it out. But I would say, even if you cannot compensate for something, if your grades are not best, sometimes you don't have to focus on grades, but maybe focus on your extracurriculars, maybe focus on your internships. There's many ways to handle the application, and the worst thing is to have a very solid vision. I need to correct my grades. Maybe you don't need to correct your grades. Maybe you can actually get a great internship and correct your grades without correcting your grades, doing it for other ways. So in general, I cannot exactly answer if it can compensate, because it's up to each university course department to figure that out. But definitely it's a good idea to try to improve your application in some other way, whether through GRE, through internships, through extracurriculars, through doing volunteering, or any other way that make you a better applicant.
If I could just add to that.
I can also maybe.
sorry.
Yeah, just to quickly add, because I think it strongly relates to what Mike was talking about. That with GRE, I don't really know where you're currently applying for, but the main purpose of these GREs and GMATs is that these are standardized tests, right? And very often, you saying that you were top 5% or top 10% of the class, in some cases it is impossible to get top 5%. In some cases, it's actually relatively easy. And with those GREs and GMATs, everybody's on the same level, right? And that's kind of the main idea behind them. So definitely also focus on GRE. Don't just try to pass it and keep telling them that you were top 10% or whatever, because these definitely matter. And yeah, I can also just tell you one example from my past, because I was actually passing GRE when I was applying for masters in the UK. And like, we were applying for the same course with a friend of mine, and honestly, I think our applications were extremely similar. But I did score a bit better on GRE, and I got in. I didn't end up going there in the end, but I got in and he didn't. And honestly, in my opinion, the main difference in our application was GRE, because we even wrote all of our personal statements together, so they were very similar. And the only real difference I could see was in the GRE score. And you know, in the end, I got in and he didn't. So that definitely helps as well.
Yeah, and what I just wanted to say is I see that you're applying to Oxford, and I think a helpful thing to note is that these universities, especially Cambridge and Oxford in the UK, they, especially when it comes to high school and high school grades, they take a very contextual approach. So their idea is not exactly having the perfect grades as such. So long you are meeting the minimum requirements in order to apply, then that's all you need. But they do take a contextual approach of not only what your score was, but what was the average in your area, what school did you go to, what your parents do. So it's all about putting it in the context rather than, as you kind of seem to be doing, is like comparing yourself to like that specific class. Whereas you might not realize that whilst you may not have been the top 5% in your class, for your area or the school in general, looking at the history of the school, it might be a very good GPA score. And as well, just taking into account that they might not know, no, they might not know what this class average was. So long that you're showing some type of potential, that's what they're looking for. I've actually had this specific conversation with my supervisor, who he was my dissertation supervisor for my last year, but he was also one of the person that interviewed me when I was applying to Cambridge. And he said that like the main thing that you are looking for is this potential, this idea that you can be developed. So it's not necessary for you to have the perfect scores and almost be the perfect ideal candidate now, but just show that you are a smart person, you are passionate, and that you're someone that is worth investing in.
I just have one more thing to add. So, Sophia, there's a good news for you. As Mike and Matt have already said, you have another requirement, which is your GRE or GMAT score for MFE. So, there's a room to improve on there. If you think your degree is not good enough, because first of all, you shouldn't feel that, but there's a lot of scope of improvement in case of MFE, because you have the GMAT score, then you have this video assessment test. So you can work on those aspects, make those pillars stronger, and compensate for what you think is your weakness. So work on your strengths, I would say, and you'll get through for sure.
Amazing, guys. Last question, if there is any, and we're gonna be wrapping up the Q&A section. Yes, there is a question from Isha. Anuba, would you like to take one? Anyone wants to take one? I can take it, but I spoke a lot already, so.
Matt, would you like to take
this one? Sure, I can take this
Perfect.
one. Does it make any difference if we apply in round 3 and not in round 1 and 2? Yeah, so like the whole idea behind these rounds is to first of all give different deadlines to people, but also this is also where recruiters make their first choices. So for example, if they have a couple of outstanding candidates in round 1, there's a high chance that they just put them to the pile of people that will get in. Then the rest of the people, they either just completely reject or they put it through other rounds. So it could be potentially the case that if you apply in round 3 and there was so many crazy good people in rounds 1 and 2, it could be that a lot of spots are already taken, right? So to some extent, it could matter in which round you apply, but also always these rounds are designed in such a way that also people in round 3 also have a chance of applying, because there is a specific ratio. It differs per every university and every subject you're applying for, but they also leave some percentage of spots open, right? So it's not like you'll be applying in round 3 and everything will be taken. But if you have a chance of applying in round 1, definitely do that, because the earlier you do it, the better. And then the second part of the question: does it impact our chances of admission? So I guess I kind of answered this already. Also, do you review profiles to judge where our profiles stand as of now, and what chances do we have of being accepted? So yes, we do review profiles. This was also something that Mike was talking about before. Like, we have a bunch of different services. Suitability advice is one, so we kind of review your profile based on where you want to apply, and we kind of try to adjust this profile so that it best fits the specific course you are applying for. So definitely we do that. We have a bunch of other services similar to this one, which also make your profile stand out more as compared to other candidates that could be applying for a similar program. And what chances do we have of being accepted? So this, I guess, that we would review your profile and give you some sort of a score with regards to the chances that you have of being accepted. So obviously we cannot give you like a percentage, right? That there's a 68% chance that you will get accepted. This, of course, we cannot tell you, but we can definitely tell you in terms of brackets, right? So let's say low chances, medium chances, and high chances, because you can very easily spot a person with already high achievements in the past that they always have higher chances of being accepted, right? Like, I don't know, better internships, better grades, better personal statements. Of course, at the end of the day, you'll have higher chances of being accepted than a person that didn't achieve as much this far. So of course, this we can do. So just kind of tell you where we would, let's say, put you on the benchmark. So for example, above an average candidate or below an average candidate, but of course we cannot really give you like an actual score or an actual percentage of the chances of you being accepted.
Just to add on top of that, yes, the review of profiles is one of our services, as Matt said. Of course, each year the applicants are different, and we don't know who's going to apply in the year you're applying, but we can definitely compare you to the people from the past. We can also compare you to the people from the present that work with us, because there's many clients that we have from different profiles, so we can compare you guys, our clients, between each other. So we do have some advantage. And yeah, we always, as much as we are a firm that helps people to get in, we're also quite, I would say, quite honest. If somebody doesn't have the grade to make it to Oxford, Cambridge, Harvard, we're saying it, the way it is, because sometimes it's impossible in some cases. So yes, we do review profiles, and we estimate, I would say, is the word, the chances of you being accepted. So yeah, that's definitely one of the things we
and that's and I think that's the idea of Edunate, because we want to work on your strengths and make sure that you are achieving your goal of reaching to your dream university. So yes, we prefer that if you want, and you can send the profile to us, we'll review it. We'll let you know about your chances, and if we feel that there's a lot of scope, we'll help you to work on your strengths and make sure that you reach to your goal.
Amazing, guys. I think we're closing the Q&A section. We're going to show you the last slide with the contact details about all of us. So you have a contact number to contact us on WhatsApp. There is our website that you can visit. You can see our team, all nearly 30 people that are working with us, graduates of the best universities. Below you have a contact at Edunate email. Here you can contact us if you need any of our services, have any questions. And probably from this email, we will send you a pamphlet with all the information about that webinar, and with the examples of personal statement and CVs that were successful, that got to the best universities. This will be sent to you around Monday. Lastly, you can see our Instagram, Edunate, where you can see some of the reels and information and updates. Make sure to stay tuned in. I hope you enjoyed the seminar. I hope you enjoyed the speakers that I would like to thank personally. Thank you for attending. Thank you for your questions. It was very nice. We have it recorded, so we will most likely post it soon if you want to revise and hear some answers or tips again. Thank you very much. I'm giving voice to others to thank you personally, and that will be it from us. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you very much for your attention, for your questions, and we'll hopefully see you soon on other webinars as well.
Yeah, thank you everyone. It's been a pleasure, and hopefully we'll hear of you guys again.
Thank you everyone for being here, and I wish you all a very great day and all the very best for your applications. Take care.
All right, guys.
Awesome.
Bye
Bye bye.